Okay, solo episode, trying to formulate my thoughts. None of this is scripted, which makes it a little bit tough, but I have some thoughts. First thing I want to comment on is it was probably 7 or so years ago. I had a client ask me if I had ever seen the Showtime series Billions. And at the time I said, no, never heard of it, never watched it. And he said, oh, you should check it out. The work we're doing together reminds me of that. And I never checked it out. And since then, I've had a number of people ask me the same question. And then right before Christmas, I had a new client ask me if I had watched Billions. I said no. I had seen a clip of an episode, but I've never watched it. I didn't watch it. And he said there's a character on Billions that is doing similar work to the work you've been doing with us. That's how we envision working with you going forward as an outside, as an outside coach, not an inside coach. So if you've watched Billions, you know who I'm talking about. There's a character on the show. Her name is Wendy Rhoades. If you've seen Billions, it's basically a series about a really high-powered CEO of a hedge fund company that's embattled with a U.S. attorney. And so Wendy Rhoades, the character Wendy Rhoades, is an employee of the hedge fund company. I'm only in season 2, by the way. So I don't know what happens for the rest of the seasons, but she basically is an internal psychiatrist for those that work for the hedge fund organization, starting with the CEO and his entire team. Now, if that changed, I don't know beyond season 2, so you gotta bear with me if what I said was inaccurate after that. The long and the short of it is her job is to confront the harsh truth with people. And she helps the people inside the company recognize who they are, what's going on in their head, what's in their way, how to resolve conflict, how to overcome obstacles, how to find internal confidence, how to build more effective relationships with one another, with their clients, how to find peace within themselves. She's basic. That's what she is. She's a psychiatrist for the company. I'm not a psychiatrist, and not everything Wendy does is consistent with what I do. But I get what this particular client was saying when he asked me to check it out, and so therefore I've checked it out and I get it. Um, the reason I bring it up is I spend my time trying to understand what's going on in the minds of the people that I work with on a regular basis. But even outside of work, I'm always analyzing where's this coming from? Why does this person consistently repeat these patterns? Or why do they constantly default to that thought process? And and so it's part of who I am. It's why I write every day. Every day I get up in the morning and I write and I write and I write. And my book is filled with notes, but my computer is filled with notes. And a lot of those notes, as you know, if you've listened to me or follow me on social media, they spill out into surveys on LinkedIn or thoughts on LinkedIn or podcast topics. And it's just this constant process that I go through and I love it. But what I wanted to talk about today is, and if I could just default to being, I guess, the Wendy Rhoades as say a sales coach or as a confidence coach, whatever you want to call it. I I'm noticing over the last few months that many of the business professionals that I'm talking to are feeling a sense of or a feeling of uncertainty in the market. And one thing that keeps coming up, and if you follow me on LinkedIn, I posted about it today, is there's uncertainty in the economy. And sometimes I'll hear, well, we're coming into an election year, or rates are volatile. They're as high as they've ever been, even though they've started to creep down. We don't know if they're going to go back up. And as a result of some of these thoughts, many of the people I'm talking to are starting to hunker down or go into kind of a wait and see mode. The sales professionals that I deal with have said everything to me from my clients aren't ready to meet right now. They want me to call them at the end of the quarter. Projects are on hold, hiring freezes, kind of we're just in a holding pattern for the foreseeable future, these kinds of things. So as a result of that, I've talked to a number of people, some of whom are contemplating whether or not they should even stay in the businesses they're in. Somebody told me last week about a conversation he had with a friend who's owned a company for years that's hit a little bit of a, a stagnant point. Now he's thinking maybe I should just get a job so that I could have a consistent income until things open up again. And so I don't like that way of thinking. And I don't like when people start not to believe in themselves. I don't like when we start to question our own value. And I don't believe in all this nonsense out there about what's not going to happen. And so if I could just default to being Wendy Rhoades, when somebody says to me, people aren't taking my calls, or, business is slow, projects are on hold, the first thing I want to know is why do you believe that? Or do you believe that? You actually believe that to be true? The question I have is, what do you think? And I may have said this on the last solo episode, and if I did, you're going to hear it again. What goes on in the mind of somebody else when your call comes in, when they see your name on caller ID or your number on caller ID? Do they say, I can't wait to take this call? I am so excited that, you're calling me today. Is it something they look forward to because they feel like there's value in the relationship? Or are they pushing you to voicemail? Are you unknown, or worse, are you known as somebody who's needy, as somebody that always wants something, as somebody that's always pretending to be nice so you can sell them something? Is that it? Because the reason I ask that is, if you can't get people on the phone, it's not because they don't pick up their phone. It's not. I've talked about this a million times. It's not. And nobody needs to wait weeks or months to carve out time on their schedule to meet with anybody. There's nobody that's that busy. There's nobody that's that busy. They just don't find value in giving their time to you in this given point in time, whatever. Here's my belief. My belief is that if you're in a business right now that's in a holding pattern, that's stagnated, if you feel uncertainty about what's coming in or when it's coming in, I would challenge you to think about how much you've given along the way. How much did you, or have you, given to other people along the way when times were good? Were you a taker? Were you just collecting money? Were you just selling shit to people? Or were you taking the time to give? And let me explain give. Giving is about taking the time to make a call to somebody who doesn't need you, a client, a professional contact, taking the time to see how somebody's doing, taking the time to listen, taking the time to understand, taking the time to refer or introduce somebody that didn't ask for it, taking the time to think about somebody who wasn't expecting it. I've had a number of people over the years with adult children, for example, that are out of work or that can't find jobs, and they'll call me and say, any way you can talk to my son or daughter. I have a number of people in my network mid-career, by the way, and this is a podcast I want to do with somebody who has the courage to do it. Mid-career people in my age bracket, 50 somethings, finding themselves out of work, and they don't know what to do. They're scared. Maybe they didn't expect to be fired. Maybe they didn't expect to be laid off at this point in their lives. And many of them feel like their opportunities have diminished, that they're no longer, of value to the market because they're too old, which I think is just bullshit. Taking the time to talk to those people, help them restore their confidence, help them rethink or remember the value that they actually bring to the table so that they can get their career back on track, whether it's as an entrepreneur or as an employee with somebody else. That's what giving is. And if you take the time to give to people, they don't forget it. But giving is not quid pro quo. You don't give so that you can get. You give because it's the right thing to do. And if you make it a priority to do these things, you'll never worry about the market or the economy. You're not going to run into people who don't have time to talk to you. You won't run into people that don't pick up their phones or can't meet. Those things don't happen when you give. But when you take or when you're invisible, that's going to happen to you. So if your business is in a place where you're not sure when it's going to come out, when things are going to open up, when opportunities are going to start to spill in, I would say one, it's because you're brand new and don't know anybody. So you're just trying to figure out how to get started. That could be one of the reasons. The other reason is you haven't given enough. And a possible third reason is you're talking to the wrong people. You're talking to people that are just as scared as you, who are only worried about themselves. Like if you're in sales and you're always selling into a mid-tier person that lacks influence, that lacks conviction, that lacks authority, that's only allowed to do what they're told to do, and that's where you gather your information about what's possible for your business, yeah, you're going to feel alone and you're going to feel like things aren't happening. You're going to start to doubt. You're going to start to say, maybe I should get a second job. But when you give and you start giving to the right people at the right levels because it's the right thing to do, and and your phone's going to ring. Your phone's going to ring. And I think back to there's two things. When I was young in my sales career, I moved to Florida. I may have told this story before. I moved to Florida to open a small office for the mortgage company that employed me. And I didn't know anybody and I had no money. And I had, I think when I said I had no, I think I had $500 or $1,000. I think I might have had that amount of money, but not enough to furnish an apartment. I had to get it. My apartment was $350 a month and it was infested with cockroaches. I lived in the poorest area in Cape Canaveral, Florida, right outside the space station or the space center or whatever it was called. And every morning I would get up and I would open my cabinet and cockroaches would run out. I'd move the cereal box, cockroaches would run out. And I just like brushed them aside because I needed to eat that food. And as long as they weren't in the box, I ate that food. That's how little money I had. And I didn't have enough to furnish the place with new furniture. So my friend brought me down to Rent-A-Center. She had a friend who managed it. And she said, they will sell you used furniture. If you have a few $100s, she'll find a way to. I got a dining room table, an end table, a few lamps, a TV, and a TV stand for $350, all used, all mismatched. I put it in this cockroach infested apartment. And the only thing that I was able to buy new was a mattress and that I bought during a rainstorm and it flew off the car roof on US 1 during rush hour traffic and it was hit by multiple cars. And I remember getting out of the car, dragging it off the road, retying it, bringing it home, and just looking at this broken box spring and coils coming out of the mattress. And that's what I had to sleep on. And the reason I tell the story is I had nothing. I was very, very needy and I had to sell something in order to make a living. And I knew nobody. And the first call I made when I was down there was to a CPA firm. And the reason I called the CPA firm is I thought this is a professional company that likely deals with people that can afford a CPA. So maybe it can get me into a community of people that actually have some professionalism and might have some money and might need to buy a house or sell a house or refinance a house. And maybe I could help those people. And I'll feel like I'm around professionals, not people like me living in a cockroach infested apartment. So I met this guy for breakfast and I just said to him, I'm new here. I don't know anything about your business. I am trying to find people that need financing to buy or to refinance a home. And I'm guessing that if I come across some of them, they may need a CPA. And I wanted to know that if I came across somebody and CPA became part of the conversation. How could I appropriately introduce those people to you? And I think he was suspicious of my intentions because kind of like, what is it that where are you going to benefit from this? I'm like, I don't know. I just need something else to talk to them about. And if the idea of a CPA comes up in conversation, it'll help me have a more diverse conversation. And so he took the time to explain his business and the types of people or companies that may need a CPA. And I left. And about 2 weeks later, my phone rang. And what was it? It was him referring a person who was looking to buy a house who needed financing to me. But I remember that feeling of, wow, this guy actually took the time to refer business to me. And it's only because I took the time to go meet him and ask how I could help him. My point in telling the story is I've never stopped trying to help people. And as a result of not stopping that, I've been able to survive the dot-com bubble. I somehow was okay during '08 when the banking industry fell apart. My business was able to survive COVID. I've been through multiple elections with multiple presidents. Everything's okay. Mortgage rates are as high as they've been in 30 years, 20 years, whatever it is. Now they're starting to come. Everything's fine. Business is still there, but it's only still there because I've never stopped giving. And when I hear somebody say to me, I don't know what's going to happen. I'm not sure much longer I can do this. I don't know when my clients are going to start buying again. I can't get them on the phone. They're not meeting with me. My only question to them and to you is, have you done enough along the way? Have you given enough value to the people in your network? They don't even have to be clients. Or when your name and number pops up on caller ID, do they view you as a taker? As somebody who's only around when times are good, there to get their money? Or are you a genuine human being that's looking to nurture a relationship no matter what's going on in the market? Are you thinking about other people even when they're not thinking about you? Because if you are, you will never, ever have problems getting people on the phone, meeting people. You'll never have a problem getting referrals, introductions. They will just come in, but they won't if you don't give. And so that's my question for you. That's me being Wendy Rhoades right now. What have you done to give something of yourself to somebody else? And have you done it enough? Look in the mirror and be honest.